Say goodbye for the last time. Say goodbye for the last time. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, my friend. Say hello to the sorrow. Say hello to the sorrow. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Say goodbye for the last time. Say goodbye for the last time. And with a sigh and these tears that I cry, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend, oh my friend. Say goodbye for the last time.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of The Last Goodbye Dash Book, Heroes of America. I'm Johnny Pizza Fratangelo, along with my executive producer, Nikki Fratangelo-Berardi, and our commentators, Ralph Narciso and Ray-Stingray Schnitzler. Now we have a special guest who's becoming a good friend of mine recently. I just got to know him, got his book, and I'll let you know about that in a little while. He's a Vietnam. He told me I had it wrong, but he corrected me. He's a flight. I can't see. I got the lights out, right? So you're gonna have to bail me out here, right? You were the crew chief and a gunner on a helicopter in the COVID operations beyond and top secret. Okay, and he's going to tell us a story. And I tell you what, he's got a good book, man, and it's we saved SOG souls. Okay, so it's, can you see that? It's really great. I'm reading it, and I'm telling you, I'm really into it. And I'm believe me, I went through some stuff, and this guy's been through so much more than I've been through. It's really worth the read. Okay, and he'll let you know how you can get it. And I got it on Amazon. I guess we'll let you know about that. But anyway, Roger, introduce yourself to everybody and get us familiar with this. You know, bring us in.
Sure,
Bring us
thank
in the
you.
loop.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Roger Lockshire. I was in Vietnam. I was with the 101st Airborne Division with their aviation battalion. I was a crew chief door gunner on a UEC model gunship. We provided aerial support for the 101st Airborne and anybody else in the immediate area that needed help, that needed some hired guns, as we called ourselves. Also, during my time in Vietnam, I got involved with a top secret organization, a very, very elite group of special forces men who at the time were called Studies and Observation Group, SOG. Well, that was kind of a very thin cover for Special Operations Group at the time. The missions that SOG were involved with were essentially all across the fence, either in Cambodia, Laos, or North Vietnam. During my time in Vietnam, I was involved with a few missions in Cambodia, and then later on, as our unit moved north up to Way Phu Bai, Camp Eagle, we got intensely involved with MACV SOG CCN, Command and Control North. And I started operating out of what was called FOB-1 in Phu Bai, and then and out of Khe Sanh, when Khe Sanh was under siege. We were operating out of there. Very few people know or are aware that we had special forces in Khe Sanh during the siege. And we operated out of there for missions into southern North Vietnam, up into the DMZ, and in particular into Laos, deep into Laos many times. So that was a war that was top secret at the time. And when I got involved with the unit, with the group, we had to sign off 20-year non-disclosures that we were not allowed to discuss the missions with anybody outside of the immediate group that we were involved with the mission, in the mission with, which meant that even previous missions, we technically weren't allowed to talk to other operators that were not in that particular mission. So it was a very strange undertaking. We did it wholeheartedly, and I do describe in the book how our commitment came about with these people, with the special operators, and they're an amazing group of people. Obviously, all volunteer. Every mission was volunteered. It was made very, very clear that all involved, the chances of survival were very slim every time out. But, you know, being young and feeling invincible and totally committed to the cause, we took on that challenge, and we're very, very successful at it. And I have to say that, and I mention it often in the book, that I had the privilege of working with some of the most amazing warriors that you can ever imagine, that would go in again, consider going in behind enemy lines, right into the enemy's backyard. And we're not talking Viet Cong, which were bad enough. These were hardened, seasoned North Vietnamese military that we would go into their backyard, and the men on the ground would conduct their mission for 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Small groups, maybe only 5 to 7, 3 Americans and 4 indigenous mercenaries, and snoop around, do their job, and all the while being tracked by North Vietnamese trackers, dogs, and you name it, and evading them while conducting their mission. And at the end of their mission,
okay.
Did somebody ask?
No. We keep. There's a couple of hesitations that we lose you for a couple of seconds. But I was going to say, all these missions that you guys went on, you were always on. It seemed like you were always on the fire, and your choppers were always getting, messed up and damaged.
Yeah. Well, again, our whole purpose in life at that time was to aid somebody who was in trouble. It was, we, like I say, we were the hired guns to help whoever it was, whether it was, regular troops inside the country that were in a firefight. It was our job to go in and suppress the enemy. So, yeah, whenever we flew, whenever we left on a mission in country or out of country, more often than not, it was going to be a firefight involved.
Roger.
During. Go ahead, Ralph. Sorry, Ralph. Go ahead.
During what years did this take place?
Okay, Ralph, I arrived in Vietnam the very beginning of December of 1967 and left there the very end of November 1968. So I had the privilege of being there for the buildup of the Tet Offensive and during Tet and the aftermath and so on. It was a tough year.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm reading about something on the internet called Operation Barrel Roll. Does that sound familiar?
Operation which?
Barrel Roll.
No.
Oh, okay.
I may, Ralph, I may know it under different terms. I may,
Right.
If it was an operation that was conducted by MACV-SOG in the I-Corps area, especially during 1968, I would have more than likely been involved.
Go ahead, John. You had a question?
Well, Roger, no, you answered my question when you asked it. I was going to ask him, was he there during the Tet? But he answered it. Yeah. What I want to ask you, I want you to tell the people, because this is I can't believe how dangerous this was. When you landed, your chopper was shot down, okay, and you got wounded in your arm at this particular time, and your buddy was with you, and you had to be hoisted up with the cable. And your arm got numb from being wounded, okay? And it was hard for you to hold on. Your buddy was actually holding you on to get lifted up into the chopper, and you were getting shot at. That has to be a real scary time.
Yeah, there's a lot of backdrop to what you're referring to. That took place in late September 1968. I was shot down deep in Laos, right in the middle of a massive North Vietnamese concentration and headquarters type area. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of detail that goes into what you're referring to. One of the things, the sort of humorous part, we got shot down. We were on the ground, 4 of us, the pilot, co-pilot, myself and my partner, a door gunner, and the rescue helicopter that came to get us out threw down the McGuire ropes, because there was no place for the helicopter to land, and it was under fire. But in the meantime, since we had gotten shot up so badly, and in the book it describes it in detail what happened, but there was a chase medic, special forces medic, in that chase helicopter. He didn't know what the severity of our injuries were. I mean, we were on fire before we crashed. We had gotten hit. He visibly saw us take a 37 millimeter round up through the bottom of the aircraft, and he said it looked like we hit a speed bump. And he didn't know the extent of our injuries. So when the helicopter came to a hover about 20 feet off the ground, he jumped out to come down and take care of us. Problem was, now there were 5 of us on the ground and four ropes. So he tied himself to me, and and we went up that way, and we had almost an hour of flight time to get back to a friendly area, and we were taking fire the entire time. Actually, when we were being lifted up out of the crash site, we crashed in a bamboo patch, you might say, and it helped cushion our fall a little bit. But anyway, the helicopter couldn't land, so as he was lifting us up, he had to lift straight up. The pilot had to lift straight up over 100 feet to clear the trees. And when he started lifting us up, I was hanging on to my M60 with a short link strip of ammo. My partner, door gunner, his weapon of choice, even though we used M60 in aircraft, instead of carrying an M16, he would carry a M79 grenade launcher. So as we started lifting up out of the jungle there, the NVA charged the opening right below us, and they were no more than 50 feet away, 75 feet maybe, and with full blast on their AK-47s, and I let go a burst with the M60, and I dropped 3 of them. And Scott, my partner, fired off his M79. That exploded in the midst, and it gave us just enough time to further get up some altitude and clear the trees. I couldn't hang on to the M60. It jammed after around 6 rounds because I was holding almost straight down with one arm, and it jammed after around 6 rounds. But that's okay. And then I dropped it. It went through the roof window of the chopper that was crashed, and that just started our long ordeal of being shot at by small arms fired, then by heavy machine guns and anti-aircraft guns. So that was that comes in around chapter 20 of the book that you're getting close to.
I got a question. What would you feel? What were you feeling at that moment? Like what was going through your mind?
Well, and John, you know this very well. When you're in combat and you're in the thick of things, you're reacting more than thinking. I was thinking before we crashed for short interim. I was thinking before our firefight, our real heavy action took place. But once you're in the moment, you're operating on muscle memory and instinct. So at that moment, I can't say that I was really thinking. I was reacting more than anything. As I was hanging from that rope at 9,000 feet. Yeah, then I was thinking.
Did you feel at a point that you thought you were going to die, or
Absolutely. Absolutely. We were in the air only about 15 minutes, and these McGuire rigs were very early modeled McGuire rigs, and all they were was 125 length of rope with a woven loop woven in at the bottom of the 125 foot, and you stepped into it like a child's swing seat, soft swing seat, and then you had to hang on in order to keep from falling out. If you let go, you'd invert and just drop out. There was nothing to hold you in. And my problem after
what's
about
the weight capacity of them?
What's that?
No, I just wondering, what's the weight capacity of one of those rigs?
That's a very good question, and I certainly was thinking about it when I had my friend tied on to me, and now the two of us were hanging on what should be one person. And I was very kind to him in the book, and I said he was about 175 pounds. Well, I think Crawford passed that 175 mark in the 8th grade. He was pushing 200 if nothing. But so yeah, I was thinking that when you asked what I was thinking, I certainly was thinking that. I was thinking, how old is the rope too? Because they stretch, you know. But anyway, after about 15 minutes, I lost the feeling in my left arm, and my left arm just dropped to my side. And right around the same time, I lost feeling in my legs. So I was just hanging with one arm, one hand, one arm, and that arm started to cramp up really, really bad. And I couldn't let go to shake it out, obviously. And I was thinking that this is a hell of a place to die. If this hand goes numb, I'm going to flip over, and me and my friend, we're both going to drop 8,000 feet. And that was going to be the end of it. And I thought my family would never get my remains. Yeah.
Do you think adrenaline kept you, to hold on to that rope? A lot of adrenaline, or what do you think?
No, I don't think so, because the adrenaline was wearing off. We were, as I mentioned, we were getting shot at by the 12.7 millimeter, 14.7 millimeter heavy machine guns. We were taking airbursts from anti-aircraft fire. There were airbursts continuously around us. And I thought that perhaps I had taken something in the back, something in the spine, and didn't realize it, because there was just so much going on. And so no, the adrenaline was already draining back away from my body, and I was feeling a lot of pain in my body. Before my legs went numb, they hurt really bad. My shoulders were hurting bad. Everything was hurting.
And not to cut you off, the guy that was hanging with you,
yep.
What was he saying? Like, did you guys have a conversation about?
No. I don't remember any conversation between any of the five of us as we were hanging there on ropes. We were relatively close to each other, obviously, but I don't remember. I really don't recall any conversation taking place.
So Roger, you're painting a picture of five guys hanging from ropes at, you said, 9,000 feet from a helicopter that's probably going, about 150 miles an hour?
No. This helicopter, with the drag and the altitude, this helicopter was only going about 55 miles an hour.
Oh, okay.
It was going painfully slow.
Painfully slow. So the helicopter is flying you to the nearest medical?
No, the nearest friendly outpost. It was a Marine outpost on the mountainside next to Quezon. That was the nearest friendly outpost. And
so you get to the outpost. what does the helicopter do? Does it drop down and slowly let you touch the ground, or how does it work?
Ideally, but the pilot, a couple things were happening. The pilot misjudged the height or how much we were hanging down below, and he dragged us through the concertina wire. But again, there are many miracles that happen on this particular mission. This was one of many. The only one that got really caught the wire was the one hanging that was tied to me. He went through the wire and it shredded parts of his clothes, but he didn't have anything more than a very slight scratch. I mean, it could have been.
That's something.
So the other thing is that we talk about miracles. I mean, I mentioned, again, I'm pushing the book, I guess, but I mentioned these from a spiritual standpoint in the book of these many unexplainable things that occurred. Now, the other thing is, and this one, it's another situation where no one can describe or can explain what happened. While the chase helicopter, the rescue helicopter, while it was hovering above us, deep in Laos, where his low fuel warning light came on and the alarm went off. This means that there's 20 minutes of fuel left. That's what the low fuel alarm is. It's a 20-minute warning. Well, we were almost an hour away from the safe zone, and that was while he was still hovering. And when we got to the coast, which was 45 minutes after we got in the air, probably 50 minutes or so after his light came on, and he set us down, and he did a good job setting us down. He literally ran out of fuel and the engine went off. And he came down, he had to flare his rotors to keep from hitting extremely hard. He was totally out of gas, totally out of fuel. And
Wow.
So
you made it with no pun intended, you made it on a wing and a prayer.
A lot of prayers. A lot of prayers.
Say the least.
and like they say, there are no atheists in foxholes, and I don't think there was an atheist amongst any of you guys.
I can tell you that to this day, now several of people that had been involved one way or another on that particular mission, every single one agreed that the only explanation for that entire operation was divine intervention, because there is no other way you could explain. And again, you'd have to read the book to see what took place on this one particular mission. And and we all came out, and we were in the midst of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hardened North Vietnamese. And they did get 2 helicopters were left for them, but they got blown up by fast movers. But that's all they got. They shot down the slick that picked up our team. They shot us down. The slick got the crew from the slick, and the team that was on the slick, the recon team, got picked up by an additional helicopter. That one got safely back. The chopper that picked us up, it got safely back. So all those who were involved that were on death's door, perhaps with more than 1 foot inside that door, all made it out. And every single soul that witnessed that operation, that listened to it over the radio frequencies back at the launch site, everybody that was involved in the air said that there's no explanation how that went the way it did. No explanation.
And so do you think that what do you think was your main driving force behind writing the book?
Well, I had attempted to write 2 or 3 times over the years. However, I was sworn to secrecy.
Right.
So as I started to write, I thought, this isn't a wise thing to be doing.
Right.
And but then, as time went on, I also realized that there was nobody in my life that could back up, that could validate what I had been involved with. I had lost all contact with everyone, and through secrecy and whatnot. And then in 2011, I received a phone call late at night from someone telling me that special operations personnel from the Special Operations Association were looking for me and trying to locate me and the other 3 members of my crew. That opened the door. They brought me into the organization in 2011. I was awarded my second Flying Cross through that mission, all those 40 odd years later. And the men that I reconnected with kept pushing me, telling me, Roger, you've got to write a book. You've got to write a story, because we were going out to recon. He said we were going out once every couple of weeks, maybe once every 3 weeks. You were going out every day, with all the different teams. So I decided that I'm going to start writing something. But I had never written a book. I don't come from that background for writing or anything. So I thought I would write memoirs for my grandchildren and for my 2 adult sons, because my 2 adult sons didn't know anything about it either until
it's amazing.
Until they were adult men. So I started writing it for my grandkids and for my 2 sons, and that led me to write the book in a way that would not be verbally offensive to anybody who read it. It didn't, I didn't want to contain barracks talk. We all know what that talk is like. I didn't want,
like I did, right?
No, this is just for me. It's how I started out, and I wanted them to be able to read it, and and the same as I didn't want to have a lot of gore in it. I didn't want to have blood and guts. I mean, you read the story, you know what's going on.
Right.
You know the hardship of it, and so that's kind of how I did. And it's when COVID struck, then I was kind of locked in the house like everybody else, and put the words to paper and got it going. Yeah.
Great. One of our readers wants to know a little bit more about your specific injury.
About which?
One of the listeners posted a question about your injuries. They want to know a little bit more about the extent of your injury.
Well, I had on this particular mission, I had taken a gunshot, AK-47 round to the helmet, gave me concussion and messed up my neck some. During the crash, or before, I messed up my back, and I ended up with paralysis. And that's what happened when I was on the string. I had paralysis of one arm and both legs. They were totally dead. They were totally numb. That took about a day and a half to recoup. As it turned out, it was a spinal bruising. My hips were messed up. My leg was messed up. When we crashed, the impact of the crash was so violent that it snapped my watch band. I had a St. Christopher medal that I wore. It snapped the necklace of that. I had a brass bracelet that one of the Brew elders had given me that I had on my wrist. That was gone. So again, when Stingray, when you mentioned the adrenaline, that's the adrenaline was in full gear at that time because again, we just started operating as we trained to do. And I picked up the St. Christopher medal, was on the floor of the chopper, as was my watch with the broken band. I never found the bracelet and I never found the necklace, but I didn't look for them either. I mean, I had there were things happening. We were still getting shot at.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something.
Okay.
And one of your missions, because like what, Ray?
No, I
did you say something, Ray?
Yeah, I was just thinking, about the after effects, like of what happened and the struggle that you must have went through, and the struggle that you're still going through. I think you need to tell the people, because a lot of people don't know about sacrifice the way that you sacrificed and the way that Pizza sacrificed.
Yeah. There's, for those of us who served in combat, the effects of combat never leave you. It's my belief. They don't leave you. I mentioned in the book that a wise man, Special Forces Colonel, told me that the Army took us out of combat, but they never took the combat out of us. And that's a true statement. And it comes at you at night at times. And so, yeah, that's a hard thing. And all of us that have been there know as I speak, and it's something that you have to live with and have to learn how to control, and try to keep from it affecting your loved ones, which is very difficult.
You mentioned before that you had received medals. Go ahead, John.
No,
go ahead, John.
It's all right, Ralph. Go ahead.
I wanted Roger to just tell us this delay.
Yeah.
I wanted Roger.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted Roger to.
All right, let's shoot. Ralph, you go. Ralph, you go.
I wanted Roger to give us a rundown of the medals that he received and what were the commendations. What did they say?
Well, the first major award I received was for a mission and actions that took place in an area in the southern area called Sambe, and it was during it was a Distinguished Flying Cross that I was awarded. And at the time, we were supporting a ground unit of the 101st Airborne that was in serious combat with a large NVA element. And we had a new co-pilot on board. The co-pilots would manage the miniguns. The pilot would manage the rockets. The miniguns fire on a 3-second cycle. You pull the trigger, it fires for 3 seconds and stops. You let go of the trigger, you pull the trigger again, and it fires. And it's firing at the rate of 5,000 rounds per minute. So, I mean, it's really ripping ammo out there. The problem that some pilots, inexperienced pilot would be they'd pull the trigger and then they let go before it timed out and pull it again. As soon as they did that, it would jam. It would jam the minigun. And when you're in the midst of a firefight, that's a very bad thing, because
Right.
you're for everybody, for the people on the ground, but also for a gunship. I mean, for a gunship, you can only stay safe by being the more aggressive. I mean, that's your only hope. If once you stop shooting, you're a sitting duck. So anyway, we started our gun run, and I was firing away. The pilot was firing rockets. The co-pilot let go a burst of miniguns, but he didn't time it out, and he panicked and jammed the guns. And we're 20 minutes away from where we were working on it, from Sambay, which was our nearest place to sit down. Ordinarily, you'd have to fly back, sit down, unjam the minigun, refuel, come back out, and in that amount of time, your brother's on the ground. I mean, they're in deep despair. So anyway, I told our pilot, I said, stay on station. Don't leave. I'll unjam the gun. So I went out on the skids and unjammed the minigun. I mean, it took, maybe a minute or two to unjam the minigun. We didn't have to leave station. And so we went back. We made our gun run. He did the same damn thing all over again. And so I went and did the same. I told the pilot, don't leave. And so I went out. This time both miniguns were jammed. Both sides were jammed, and unjammed the miniguns. And when I got back in, our pilot said to me, he said, "Hey, Chief," he said, "did you realize how close those bullets were coming to you when you were out there on the skid?" I said, "No, I said, I could hear cracking, but when you're in a firefight, you hear the cracking all the time." Mm-hmm. And he said, those MVA, he said, they had their eye on you, because he said all that gunfire was coming on that side of the aircraft. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I didn't know. So anyway, to make a long story short, I found out later that this pilot put me in for the Flying Cross as a result. I mean, there was more going on in that mission, but that's pretty much how the citation read, And but again, I didn't think of it any more than we've got our brothers on the ground. We're there to protect. We're there as the hired guns. If we can't do our job, then what the heck are we doing?
Right.
So,
the selfless determination that you just explained to our audience, I see the same in John. He also did the same thing for his commendation that he received for his Silver Star. It's amazing how, listening to you guys over these few past weeks that we've had veterans on the show, and it's just amazing how you just put yourself out there. So many people would not do that. So many people would just duck and cover. I mean, there's a special person that would just knowingly sacrifice their own life for others. And that's special, real special.
Well, thank you. But, again, I never considered it in that realm. I always considered myself to be very good at what I was doing. And my job, when I was called, was to do just that. It was to go after the enemy and not back down. In a selfish manner, I mean, it helped keep me alive. I stayed alive because our policy, my crew, was that you don't back down. As soon as you back down, no matter what the situation is, as soon as you back down, you're dead. It's as simple as that. I mean, you're hopeless. The only thing you could hope to do, and we did it over and over and over, and that would be against heavy machine guns and against hundreds of really mad enemy soldiers, and just not back down and overpower them just with aggression. And I mean, I saw it as a survival tool.
Right. And
Raj,
you come off.
Go ahead.
No, John.
Let me say something Ralph, my turn. Huh? Roger. Okay.
Thank you.
Me being a member of Recon, okay, we did not like outsiders in our group because we knew what everyone was going to do. You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I know
you know
exactly.
what I'm getting at. One of your missions, well, it might have happened more than once, but you had to take on a chopper crews to go along with you that weren't a member of your group. And I know you didn't really like that, but you okayed it. And tell them what happened in one of the missions when when one of the choppers broke your plan of formation. Okay, like you were just talking about, if you back down. Okay, I don't know if you remember. I read it in your book.
No, I know exactly.
You had to go. You know what I'm talking about. So I want you to tell it because you know it better than me, naturally.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. I know exactly what you're referring to. And that particular mission was the mission that broke the camel's back. That was the second time. I won't go into the first time, but this was the second time that we were teamed up with a fire team, a gunship team that was not from our unit. And we were doing a top secret mission, and we were going into Laos to rescue a hatchet force, a special forces, Assad hatchet force, which is a company-size unit of mercenaries with special forces leadership. They were trying to get extracted, and they were under intense fire. So Special Operations Command decided that we needed a heavy fire team being four gunships instead of 2. Which made sense. But the only thing is, this didn't work out. And because this was the second time that we were being requested to operate with this other unit, my pilot, who was always the fire team leader, regardless of rank of anybody else who was flying, he was always the fire team leader because he was considered the best or one of the best. Anyway, he said, I'll make a long story short if I can. He said to the other pilots, look, we're going to do this. My ship is going to be first. The first non-unit gunship is going to be our backup, our wing ship. Our wing ship would be number 3, and then the other one would be number 4. And we would go in a large racetrack formation. And so that as we started to break our gun run, the non-team gunship would be starting his. So there would be a constant barrage of miniguns and rockets and door guns on the NVA, just a constant. In the meantime, the King Bee, the CH-34 helicopters would be able to start extracting the team, the hatchet force. So we knew we had a problem with this other group. We knew that they bailed on us once before. So, and they said on the first time they bailed, they said they were running out of fuel. So our pilot, fire team leader, said, everyone fuel up, everybody top off before we lift off. And so we did, and they did. And so we lifted off. We made our way out to the location in Laos. It was just beyond the Ashaw Valley in Laos. And we started our gun run. And just before we got to the end of our gun run, when the second helicopter gunship was supposed to kick in, he bailed and left us. We were left hanging. We were left hanging. We had hundreds of NBA focused on us, and the chain, the racetrack was broken. The first one bailed, and immediately the second one, which was the fourth, bailed. So we weren't in a position to protect our wing ship. Our wing ship wasn't in a position to protect us. So, and of course, I mean, the NBA picked up on this immediately because the firing let up when we started to break from our gun run. Our wing ship started firing from way far out, from a much longer distance than he would have normally, just to give us some cover. We took a tremendous amount of gunfire, of heavy fire. As soon as we turned belly up, that's when you're vulnerable in a gunship. You turn belly up, you have no way of defending yourself except from one door gun. And to do that, you had to get out on the skid and fire down below the helicopter as you're banking left in this case. So as we broke left and, was outside on the skid firing down below us, I can see tracers coming up from all over the place. At us. We're getting very little cover. Anyway, we regrouped with our wing ship. We continued the mission. We got the entire team out, the entire battalion. The entire company, the Hatchet Force Company, out. But when we got back to FOB headquarters, Special Forces headquarters, FOB 1, the other team was nowhere to be found, which was a good thing, actually. They just bailed. They said they were running out of fuel. That's why they broke contact, that they were running out of fuel. They had the same fuel that we had, same type aircraft. So we went in. We on the flight line. We met with our other gunship crew, and we agreed that we're never going to do this again. We are not going to do this. We all were lucky, as was the team. The ground. It could have been wiped out. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we went into the TOC, the operations center. And we met with a gentleman who was commander of Special Forces, that region at the time, was Colonel Barr. We met with him and we told him that we very much wanted to work with his men, with the recon, the Special Forces. We wanted to, but we weren't going to if we had to work with a team outside of our own group. We won't do it again. And he listened. He was listening, obviously, to the operation as it unfolded, and we told him, make it short, that if he allows us to work with only, when we need a heavy fire team, only our own unit, our own gunships, if he would agree to that, then we would work with him and his men for the duration of the time, running top secret missions. And we also made a commitment to him, because the other thing is, there had been teams left hung out to dry in Laos because the gunships that were working with them at the time backed down under heavy fire or for whatever reasons. And we asked him in that meeting how many teams have been left behind, and the room went silent. It was him. There were a bunch of 1-0s or team recon team leaders in the room. Um, the room fell deadly silent, and he just lowered his head. He shook his head and said, "Too many." And we told him that if you do things our way, we will never, ever leave a team behind. That is our commitment, and we will do everything to prevent a team from being left behind. And we never did. As it turned out, we never left the team behind. We got shot down, but we didn't.
Yeah, and it's just amazing to me now that those other two crews that bailed on you, they weren't reprimanded, or I mean, I think
well, here's the thing, Ralph. Here's the thing. As it turns out, I'll just say it. There were Marine gunships. As it turned out, we were told later, much later, that the reason that they kept bailing was that they, the pilots, were under strict orders by their upper command not to fly below 4,000 feet and not to engage in low level combat, or they would be seriously reprimanded or relieved of their duties. So, it wasn't I believe in my heart, it wasn't the pilots or the crew. It was some crappy command that they were under. And that's what we were informed of later. So I can't hold it against the crews. It was something, if that's the truth, and that's how it was explained to me. So no, they weren't reprimanded. They would have been reprimanded apparently if they had completed the task.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's
wild.
Another topic I want to get. Before we get into this another topic that I want to talk about, we had a viewer ask you a question a little while ago. To want to know about your wound, but you explained that. But were married at the time with a family?
I was not married at the time. My wife now was my girlfriend at the time. We were going to get married just before I shipped over, but her dad talked her out of it, and he and I got along really well. He was a World War II vet. He was a submariner, and he explained to her that wait a year. Don't know if he's going to return. You don't know if he returns. You don't know what he's going to be like when he returns. You don't know what condition he's going to be when he returns. Just wait. And if it's okay, then it's okay. He wasn't against her marrying me. He was against her marrying somebody going into war.
Right.
So we got married 2 months after I returned.
And lived happily ever after, right?
We're still married. Yeah.
Right. I want to ask you something. People. In your book, I read something that I never heard of. Okay, and I was there. I never heard of it. I never saw it. The rock apes. Okay. When you're talking about the rock with the indigenous people, with the rock ape, tell people about that, because I never heard of it either, and I was there. Okay.
All right. Rock apes. They're Southeast Asian somewhat version of our Sasquatch or Bigfoot. It's in the indigenous people of Southeast Asia, especially the mountain people, the woods people, mountain yard people, and so on, tribal people. It's a very real thing, put it that way. And it's called a rock ape, and they're supposedly and apparently around 4.5 to 5 feet in height. Somewhat human-like, somewhat ape-like, and called rock apes because they would throw rocks when they'd come into hamlets, or if villagers in the jungle villages were maybe hunting in their area or encroaching on their area, they would come to the village, hamlet areas and start throwing rocks and sticks and different things. Rock apes. So I caught a glimpse of what I think was a rock ape on one particular mission near Laos. It was in the top part of a tree, the trees. Known to man, there's only small monkeys in Southeast Asia, no apes and stuff like that. But anyway, one of our teams, on a couple of different occasions, one of our teams was out on mission, and they realized that they were being followed. They were deep in Laos. They felt that they were being followed, so they set up an ambush in a clearing area and waited. So that maybe a half hour passed by, and they could see some movement on the other side of the clearing. They couldn't see what it was yet. And then they saw it like the top, like a head, the top of a head. And then this creature, this humanoid, stood up, and the team leader drew a bead on him and was going to shoot it. Then he realized it wasn't a tracker, and it wasn't a soldier, but it was, some kind of like an ape. So the creature just stood there looking at the team leader and the location where the team was, and the team leader, all of a sudden he raised his hand and went like this, and this creature, whatever it was, did the same thing, and it just kind of looked at each other for a while, and the thing just moved off. Now, wow. There's another occurrence, and it was on the mission that we were talking about before, where I got shot down. The team had been on the ground for around 4 days, and trackers were trying to find them, constantly trying to find them, and they knew because they would hear gunshots, signal shots by the trackers. But they hadn't located the team. They knew the team was in their region somewhere. So it was getting late in the afternoon, and the team had to find an RON, a remain overnight location, and they found a spot that was like a little rise, and it was a cave in there, and it looked like a good place that they could hide, and anybody trying to find them would have to come right straight to their front. So they started to get up into this cave. The team leader got stung by one of these mountain bees. Now I think they've started up. They've had them in the northwest of this country. There are these bees, these mountain bees that are about 2.5 inches long, and got him right over the eye and dropped him to his knees. His eye got all puffed up and whatnot. But anyway, they got up into the cave, and the cave stunk something awful. I mean, it was just awful smelling, but it was a good place for them to hold up. It got dark. The team leader, the 1-0, he had his radio, his Prick 25, outside the opening of the cave, leaning up against the rise, and he had the handset in his hand. He just held it back in his hand, and he would click when Covey came for the last check of the night. He didn't want to talk, so he just clicked that the team was okay. So during the night, it's pitch black. They can't even see the nose in front of their face. It was so dark. And as he's sitting there holding on to the handset, he feels a tug on the cord. And he's thinking, uh-oh, we've got a tracker here. And then as he was thinking, he's trying to clear his head. He's saying, no, something's not right. This isn't a tracker. And something was pulling on the cord. So as he described it, he was ready to fire his M79 straight out. And he has it. They would carry sawed-off M79, so the stock would be cut off and the barrel short. It's almost like a pistol. And he decided, he's not going. He's just gonna wait. So through the night, every once in a while he'd get a tug on this thing, and didn't know what the heck it was. And they could hear. He woke his team members, and told them, listen. And they can hear movement all out in front of them. So daylight comes. They come out of their hiding place, and they see all around them these matted areas where what they determined were rock apes, and they were probably held up into one of their homes, into one of their dens or something. But they didn't see them, but they just saw, where they had been. Yeah.
Evidence, yeah.
Yeah, saw the evidence around.
Wow. So you got some great stories there, Roger.
Thank you.
What an experience being there for you and for John, from John's book. I got to get your book and read it. You've shared so much great stuff with us tonight. I mean, you could probably come on another show
after you finish the books.
Okay.
After you finish the book, John, because like I said, it gets hairy.
Hey, Raj,
Yeah,
I just want to make a comment. Week after week on the show, I learned so much from the veterans, people like Pizza and yourself. And it always makes me humble, to realize that how thankful I am to God and to you guys that you guys go out there and give it your all so I could live the life that I live and do the things that I do. And that, no matter what we say to you guys, you guys are so humble, about, you go in, you do your mission, and you get out, and you don't, you make it seem like it's so easy, but it's not easy to be in the line of fire or get shot at. And I just wanted to thank you, as not just as a commentator, but just as an American, a proud American. Thank you guys, for giving everything to give me the better life that I live.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah.
Somebody just wrote in, wanted to know the name of your book. It's We Saved Sog Souls. It's a fantastic book. It's better than great. It's fantastic. You got to read it. Can you see it?
Right. There's some
We Saved Sog Souls.
There's some lighthearted things in the book as well. So it's not all stress and whatnot. There's a few lighthearted things.
Yeah, that's great. Nikki, what are we doing on time, baby?
Coming up over an hour.
It's about time then, huh?
Pizza, can I mention something? There's gonna be a prayer breakfast this Thursday at St. Patrick's Church in Scottsdale for the veterans of all faiths, and a reception to follow. That all vets and all people, if you lost someone in war or something's welcome. It's a great time. It's a great event. I hope everybody comes that's out here for the event.
Okay. When you said St. Patrick's, I thought you were talking about Manhattan, but you're talking about in Arizona.
Yes, St. Patrick's in Arizona in Scottsdale. And we usually get like about 130 veterans. So we're hoping for more.
Great.
And we're hoping for people, to, they put their names of a loved one on a tree. And it's just a really, really beautiful event, for past and present soldiers.
Roger,
That's
where's
great,
your
yeah.
book available?
It
Is it on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon. It's available in print and in ebook and also in audio book.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to order a copy. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys got to read it. We're gonna have Roger back so we can know what to talk to him.
Yeah.
'Cause if I didn't read it, I wouldn't have known anything to say to him.
Mm-hmm.
So look, people, you got 2 great books. I gotta hold my book up, Roger. I'm sorry. I gotta hold that up. You got 2 great books, guys. Okay.
It is a great book.
I can't see what I'm doing, but we appreciate people looking into them and getting them and reading them. You can learn a lot, really. We learn a lot. Tell your friends. Okay. Thank you so much. Anybody, Roger, Ralph, you got anything else you want to ask Roger?
No, they're going to save it for the next show.
Okay.
You're on.
Okay. So great. All right. So everybody, we want to wish everybody a happy Veterans Day out there, and thank you for tuning in. We'll be here 2 weeks from tonight with another special guest, and God bless everyone. Thank you, Roger. Thanks a lot, buddy. I'll get in touch with you, calling you. All right.
Yes, Ralph.
Love to the family.
Thank you, Roger.
All right.
Thank you so much.
And happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. You all
God
too.
bless. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.